And in terms of, when you think about like the different trends and geographies, I mean, would you say that the US is pretty far ahead in this, or is this sort of more widely adopted? Is the pace moving faster in Europe or the UK? I mean, what does it look like from a geographical standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my personal opinion, I think the US is behind. I don't think we're way out in front of this. I certainly look at regions like Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific has had a strict regulation that really kind of drove that forward, and so they're a bit out in front, I think, of where this is. South America is also up and coming. Yeah, I think they're at about the same level as Europe right now. So Europe has an interesting, with PSD2 and everything that happened with PSD2, there was a lot of focus still on hardware. So it was very interesting to see how mobile and software kind of played into that how you can start to augment these authentication flows. But certainly in Europe, it was, we're still seeing a lot to do with the hardware devices. Still a lot of hardware devices being used with EMV cap and what have you. But in South America, you're starting to see kind of that same kind of growth of the mobile market. They had some interesting cultural problems with organized crime and what have you down there, where if you were holding a mobile phone, that was a problem. You could be kidnapped and killed for just holding a mobile phone. That has come a little bit further now. So everybody has a mobile phone now, so it's a much harder problem. And I think that's the same with global, right? Everybody has a mobile phone. I think I saw a map recently of the globe, and it had pretty much the entire globe, except the center of Africa, covered with mobile phone usage.
And how fast that's happened is incredible. It is incredible, really.
Great. It's absolutely, mind blowing. It's only been 20 years.
Yeah,
20,
this is
25
it.
years. So
this is it. I remember, the pager. And I remember thinking, right? When it's in my dad's first phone, it was just like this, and now it's incredible, really, and we're relying on them so heavily, and and given how dependent we are on the things, it logically makes sense to utilize that as a mechanism for verification, of course. But as you rightly say, I think the SMS is the solution. I absolutely think it needs to be more sophisticated than that. Yeah,
I think a lot of the problems that we saw in the PC, right? So PC in the mid 90s, we were getting viruses everywhere, right? And so viruses were rolling out these patches. And I remember working for Apple, and one of my main things was getting people to get antivirus on their PCs. When the phone came out, I think that was one of the great things about the operating systems, was they kind of took that the ability for those type of viruses kind of more of a way, right? So now it's more about deploying an application versus deploying a variant of some library or something that you can infect a system or lock yourself out of a system. And so mobile phones have come quite a ways, but there are still all kinds of different things that people kind of take for granted because they're using that phone every day. They don't think about, I don't know about you, but I probably have 100 apps, and out of those 100 apps, I maybe use 15 of them a day, and maybe I log into my Marriott account once a month type thing or something like that. But I have that app on the phone, right? Right. And there's all kinds of utility apps. I'm a tech geek. I love, taking some new tech. Hey, I'm going to get a Wi-Fi scanner. Put that on my phone, and that's not a good Wi-Fi scanner. So you do have to watch out for that, and I don't think the general consumer does. No. I think they're hey, a new hot game. Let me download that. And install it. And I think the developers have kind of relaxed a little bit, because they look at people like Google, people like Apple, and say, well, they're maintaining their app store. They're going to pull those.
It's a good question, though. Do you think that we know enough about app security to be putting this much trust in an app? Do you think we know enough about it?
I think we have. I think we have a very good handle on what can be done in these platforms and what the security can be, what you can do to secure these platforms. So things like app shielding. So back in the day, it was all about mobile device management, right? MDMs. And you installed an MDM, and then you managed everybody's devices, and you segregated the data. You said, okay, this is only for business, and this is for, you can use that for personal. And users rebelled against it, right? Sure. It was hard to use.
It's just not practical, is it? It's just not practical. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but it was a way of sandboxing it. And then really app shielding came out of that. It was like, well, if we can sandbox a section of the OS, can't we sandbox an actual application too? And that's where you start to get, okay,
right.
If you've taken an app, you wrap that application, you analyze everything that's happening into that application, all the pathways into that application. You can see the malicious attacks that are going on. So classic example, screen overlay attacks, right? Which is basically you install an app. If that app just runs on top of your other applications, and it can check for, hey, I opened my HSBC app. All of a sudden, I've got an app on top of it that it looks like I can't see any difference, right? But with a tool like app shielding, it can detect that there are layers on top of that. It looks at the operating system and says, oh, hey, you've got other layers on top of your application, and a company and the bank can step in and say, hey, we don't want you to be able to do that, right? We want to stop that from happening. And so now we can really protect that. Or if we don't want to stop that, so there are valid apps that sit on top of it, like like WhatsApp, the chat heads and Facebook chat heads and what have you. Those are valid apps that do overlays. And so if I'm a bank, I don't want to necessarily stop a user from using a feature that has been there, but at the same time, I do want to stop the bad guys from being able to, capture my clicks and capture my usernames and all that kind of stuff. App shielding really kind of gives you that ability to sit back, look at what's happening, decide what the trust you want. So you feed that back to your back-end systems, decide what you want to allow that user to do, and then step in with, the different levels of trust. So you should already trust that user. Can you trust their facial authentication? Can you trust their fingerprint authentication? Can you step up that in real time and make certain that the user is doing what you need to? And I think that that's really, I really think that that's where we can already do that today. More applications need to start embracing some of those things.
It sounds to me like, this is absolutely the direction we need to go in. There's so much more we can do to be, and so many of these things have fixed so many issues. And it's fundamental that we get this right. As you rightly said, I think that the journey is just to change. It's psychological. It's to change people's behaviour. I think, and that's the process.